I'm Mark Gaines. This is Ann Glave.
I found one of them.
She is the Executive Director of the Main Street Program in Fredericksburg. She is the one that has inspired me to get the Community Heart and Soul group here, get with council to get them to back us on it, and we got them down here. Met myself and other people that are in the group have really worked hard to get this out on Facebook in any way we can to get people here. It's something that really benefits the town. It won't be an overnight fix, but it's a start. I didn't set up a speech or anything, sorry.
We don't need you.
Good.
You.
So I'm going to turn it over to Community Heart and Soul, and thank you all for coming, and I hope you all share it with your friends and all the information that you take out here with you.
So as you heard, my name is Ann Glave. Can you hear me in the back? I'll try to talk louder. And I am a new coach for the Orton Foundation, and I am a huge believer in community engagement. We do that a lot in Fredericksburg, and I'm very excited that Bowling Green has received a grant for us to bring Heart and Soul here, and I am your main contact for that. So I will be at your disposal for the next couple of 18 months. So tonight we're going to go over kind of an overview of Heart and Soul, because I see a lot of new faces that I have not seen that went through the presentation. There is one exercise for today that we hope to get, and then we'll end up with questions here. But really quickly, because we're about a little later starting than I would like, I would just like if people would kind of, we'll start at the front with Joelle, so just kind of say your name and what your relationship is with town. Are you a resident, government, business, property owner, kind of like just a little bit of background for you. So quickly, you're welcome to stand up or sit down and just real quickly say who you are and what your relationship is. So Joelle, we'll start with you.
My name is Joelsa. I'm the Events and Economic Development Coordinator here in Bowling Green, and I'm also a fourth generation native of Bowling Green, so very happy to be working for my hometown.
Jason Satterwhite, I'm the mayor of the town. Lived here for 50 years. Yeah, forever.
You've aged well for 100.
Yeah. Raising two boys here in the town, and look forward to the town prospering. And thank you all for coming. This is awesome. This is a lot more turnout than I was fully expecting, and thank you for taking time out of your day to be here.
I'm Glenn McDermott, councilman for about 14 years. I've been living in town for about 15 years on the Economic Development Authority, and it is really good to have this out here. We really appreciate that.
I'm Sue Whittle, and like all these other people, I haven't been here very long, only since December of 2014. If you all knew Dorothy Pitts, I live in her house. We love it here, and anything we can do to help, we want to.
Michael and Susan Hirsch, we are 1 year back in the community over at Mill Run. 40 years ago next month, I took this girl off her daddy's porch on Milford Street. And, I'm not bringing her back, but we're back in the community, so thank you.
Valerie Coyle, I'm on Town Council and Planning Commission for the town of Bowling Green. I stepped into Bowling Green about 44 years ago, and I've been a resident for the last 22.
Tammy Gaines, Town Council, business owner, Little Wedding House in Magnolia Morning. Married to that guy.
Virginia Lembrick. I was born here in Caroline many years ago. I came back, and I left for a while, came back and was in business here for over 37 years, and well, more than that really, and I live out of town, but I have property in town.
I'm Irene Hoskins. I've been here since the end of 2016. We own a house in Bowling Green. I also would like to possibly start a little bit of storefront business, hopefully in the next couple years.
Adrienne Davis, I've lived here since 2016 in the summer, and we just love the charm of Bowling Green and live right off of Milford Street.
James Davis, and I'm married to her and everything she just
I'm Mike Mahans, in real estate over here with Pitts and Mans Realty, and I'm on the board of the Main Street group here. Really happy to see such a crowd here. It's really a blessing. Thank you.
Jason Mans, Mike's son, and everything he just said.
I'm Mary Pitts. I own real estate with Mike Mans over at Pitts and Mans. I grew up on the streets of Bowling Green, been here 55 years. Not exactly what they both said.
Jane Allen, government retiree, Fort A.P. Hill, and a late resident in Bowling Green, and I know everything like this when you flew.
You'll have to tell us later.
Barbara Croson, I'm Caroline County native.
Mary James, I'm a native of Carolina. I don't live within the town limits now, but close enough to care deeply, and here are my roots, and this is where I'll be forever.
That's great.
Very good.
Hi, I'm Jean Young, 16 years on Maury Avenue.
I'm Deborah Howard. I'm on the council, and my wife and I have lived on Maury Avenue for 15 years. 16 years. I am Holly Elliott, and I'm new. I've moved to Bowling Green 2015, and we live out on Sparta Road. I'm real interested to see this community thrive. I've always, it felt home. The place we live is right across from Holly Lake, and my name's Holly, so I figured it's meant to be. I'm excited to see what's going to happen here.
I'm Jeff Seeley. I live in Bowling Green. I've been here 17, 18 years. I've lived in Caroline for over 30, and I represent the Board of Supervisors in the Bowling Green District today. So thanks for everybody coming, and we're real hopeful to get the town moving in a really good direction. I've been working with the Heart and Soul group since they got started. So welcome, everybody.
Hi, I'm Angela Smith. I have been a lifelong resident of Caroline County, but I've actually retired and opened a storefront here right on Main Street. So looking for new ventures. Pamela Smith, lifetime resident of Caroline County.
Ed Simmons, I've retired here. I love Bowling Green. Really glad to be here.
Stacy Boland, I've only been here a year. I work out at Fort A.P.ville, and right now I'm in Army Family Housing, so it'll be great to get into Bowling Green once I get out of there.
Glad to have you.
Hi, I'm Sam Fry. I retired from Caroline High School after a wonderful 35-year career, about 4 years ago. We've lived in the county for almost 40. We lived in Bowling Green for 5 years. And we're very happy to announce that thanks to Mark and Tammy Gaines, our youngest son who has an art business.
And Ruth Limbrick.
And Ruth, yes indeed. We'll be opening a studio and a gallery right beside Todd Tinder's jewelry store soon.
Carol Seeley, I moved December of 2017. I live on Maury, and I'm the pastor of the Methodist Church.
Thank you, Carol.
I'm Catherine Dalton, and I live with my husband and 2 kids right on Maury also.
I'm Yolanda Edwards Hill, grew up in the county, lived right outside of town, and just wanted to see what you guys are doing.
Well, welcome aboard. You're welcome.
I'm Rebecca Sullivan, born and raised on South Main Street. Lived in Richmond for 12 years, but came back in 2017.
Linda Sullivan, her mom, 33 years in town.
My name is Vicki Morrow. I have been here for 52 years. I've raised my 2 daughters here. I live over near the high school. I also work in human resources for Caroline County Public Schools, so I am very passionate about the county and about the schools here, and I'm excited about anything positive that we have.
So thank you for being here.
I am Lee Basin, I do not live here. I am the program director of a Caroline Triad, and I am fascinated with what you're doing, and I can't wait to help you out.
Thank you.
Yay, love that.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jessica Hartness. I actually am doing something similar and learning how to become a coach for Heart and Soul, so thank you for letting me be here to observe. Thank you.
I'm Teresa Hernandez. I'm actually a visitor from the Allegheny Highlands Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, and I'm here to observe as well. So thank you for having me.
Fantastic.
Good evening, I'm Gordon, and this is Lisa, my wife. We've been here since 2005. Sorry, Gordon, Lisa Gaddy. I've been here since 2005 and live on Maury Avenue, across from Gina and Deborah. We live in the old Borky house, and we moved here because we love the town, and that's why we stay.
I'm Joanna Ludo. I moved to Caroline County about 2013, I guess it was. Very new owner of a business in town, Caroline Laundry.
I'm Karen Tigner. I've lived here all my life, and I worked at the insurance office on the corner, which was DeJarn and Beal, and now Bankers Insurance for 41 years.
I'm Donald Cutlip. I'm a business owner here in town, and I'm on the EDA.
Arthur Butterfield. I've been here 3 years. Started a family here and looking at this roof out.
Annie Butterfield, married to this guy. Really excited to develop the community and small business.
Hi, I'm Pam Weldon. I've lived on North Main Street for 21 years, raised my daughters there. They both have their own lives now. And I run an estate sale company and service Caroline County and the surrounding counties.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Robert Pacho, I'm calling Bobby. Retired after 33 years working for the kitchen bath company, ran a warehouse, also did kitchen design. And married my wonderful wife Pam 2 years ago, and I am now a resident of Bowling Green.
Congratulations.
Northern Virginia, the big hectic wreck.
I'm Carolyn Roth. I came here 26 years ago because I found the house of my dreams on Main Street. Mine is the nicest house on Main Street. It's the white house with red shutters. Nobody else has red shutters. And I am living happily ever after because this is my chosen place.
I'm Bill Webb. I'm a property owner and business owner, and I've lived here most all of my life.
Mark Bassoon. I'm a town resident and a commercial property owner here in town, part of the Main Street group as well, and also the Caroline County Commissioner of the Revenue.
I'm Emily Kidwell. I live on Milford Street, and I have lived either in the town of Bowling Green or within a mile of the town of Bowling Green for all my life.
Somebody in the back?
Rich Hartley. I'm an immigrant from New Jersey. Back about 20 years ago, and I'm never going to be a native. I realize that now, but...
David Upshaw, resident of the county. I live within 10 miles of where my ancestors built in 1704.
Mark and Kathy Sandor, we live just outside of town, Murray Heights. Moved here in 2015. We love the town and we want to see it prosper.
Greg and Fort Fredericksburg, I've lived here now much of my adult life.
I'm Lee Tingler with Tingler Insurance. I've lived in Caroline most of my life. I am from Ladysmith, so I'm curious about what's going on.
My name is Emily, and my husband David and Joyce. We moved here 4 years ago, and the farmer's market let me join them this year. And I started my business here this spring, Dainty Chic Roadside Stand, and we've been doing a little flea market on Main Street every third Saturday from May through September. So our next one is the 21st of September. It's the last one this year.
Very good.
My name's David Lipscomb. I'm the police chief here in town. I'm the guy that everybody talks about.
Nice. We talk about being nice.
Did we get everybody?
No, we had a couple.
You should recognize this picture. Oh, we got two more?
My
Nice to
Bonner Cannon came in, and Jerry came in. Jerry, raise your hand. There you go. She owns a business in town. Y'all know
Okay.
Jerry.
I'm Terry Barksdale. I am not a resident, but I've been here since 2013. I'm sewing, tailoring, alterations. I am motorcycle accessories, and now I am the hemp lady. Okay. I'm here because I want to see Bowling Green do more and more.
Bonnie?
I'm Bonnie Cannon. I grew up here in Caroline County, lifetime, born, raised, reared, everything. But boy, has it changed. And I can relate with this lady over here, Miss Kidwell. Ask her where Kidwell's Food Land. Is anybody else here that went to Kidwell's Food Land?
Oh, yeah.
That's the time I'm referring to, back when Bowling Green was here. Ruth.
I've been here a long time.
Yes, so we need to be then.
Thank you.
That probably will never happen.
Mark, there's two over there.
There we go.
So you should recognize this
Yeah,
picture. This is your music series that you have out here. So one of the things that Horton Foundation believes is that every town is unique and every town has its own story. And the Community Heart and Soul is a positive catalyst. There are really a couple of things about it. It is a face-to-face, so it's really talking to people. Through this catalyst, you are finding the stories of what makes Bowling Green special and the direction that you want Bowling Green to go into. It also is a data-driven model. So we're collecting stories. You're going to do a short exercise today on the community network analysis. It's also action-oriented. At the end of the 4 phases, there are steps that we take to go through each phase. So it is a process. It's about 18 months. And then it's also not cookie cutter. So every community you will see will be a little bit different. So it really started in Vermont. I think we have some cookies in the back for the Vermont Country Store. I don't know if anybody are familiar with the Vermont Country Store, but it was the founder of that started Horton Foundation. And I'm going to have you see a little video of the history of that.
Community Heart and Soul is a field trip planning for small cities, towns, and rural communities.
Based on 3 powerful principles: involve everyone, focus on what matters, and play the long game. Developed by the Orton Family Foundation, Community Heart and Soul helps towns move toward a brighter, more prosperous future, rooted in what matters most to the people who live there. The seed for Heart and Soul was planted by businessman Lyman Orton, who, with his 3 sons, is proprietor of the Vermont Country Store. Orton served on his town's planning commission when it was wrestling with divisive development proposals. Orton grew frustrated that decisions being made that would shape the town's future were without guidance from the majority of the residents. There had to be a better way.
We call it Community Heart and Soul, guided by what matters most. What matters most to whom? To the residents, to the way people live their lives.
If our conversations focused on what matters most to our communities, then what conclusions would we come to about our town's economic development and the future of this area? Any community can just stumble into the future. We have a real opportunity here to seek out and grow in a way that reflects the whole community's values and ideas.
Almost any small town would benefit from going through a Community Heart and Soul process because it brings the residents of the community closer together. And as they get closer together, the differences tend to fade away, and the things that they care about the most, the things that matter most, replace the differences. They become more trusted in one another. They become more collaborative in their decision-making and in their discussions about their community, and they become stronger believers in their community. So people will continue to live there, new people will move in, and people will invest more in their community.
So Orton Foundation has invested over $10 million into the Community Heart and Soul program. They've done about 60 communities throughout the United States. Virginia is the most recent one on the East Coast, I believe, that they've done. And they've partnered with the Main Street communities to start this program. So the biggest thing that Orton Foundation is for rural communities in cities under 50,000. So they kind of cater to the makeup of Bowling Green here, and that's a 10-year history of resources that have made it happen. So there's really 3 principles that are involved with the Orton Foundation Heart and Soul, and the first one is involve everyone, focus on what matters, and play the long game. That's very similar to the same things that you will hear with the Main Street Association, so they kind of parallel each other very closely. Involve everyone means that we need to find the missing voices. It doesn't necessarily mean we will speak to every single person in Bowling Green, but hopefully we will reach all of the segments. You know, we have the young, and we have the seniors. Are there certain groups that we're not reaching? So you're really trying to gather as many stories that you can for what matters to people, what would make them stay here, what do they love the most about Bowling Green.
And if I can add one thing to that, we're not just talking about the people in Bowling Green, we're only 1,100, 1,200 strong. We're looking 5 miles out into the county. That's part of our community. They come here, they shop here, they eat here, so we have to involve that number also.
Yeah, it's not geographic based that you only have to live in Bowling Green. As you see, there's people here tonight that don't live Bowling Green, but their hearts are here. So it's really whoever cares about Bowling Green should be a part of this process. Focus on what matters talks about is really your data collection to start. It's your stories to figure out what do people want here in Bowling Green. Why did they come to Bowling Green? What are the past stories? Sometimes you'll find out different themes will come out of that will help you prioritize in which direction you would go. You don't typically know the outcome because what you're doing is you're doing all your collecting of data at that point. And then play the long game is that it's a long process. You're in the fact that you're going to be making decisions and you're about 1.5 years out in which direction you want to go, and then it's maintaining those directions. I mean, some of the communities will get their priorities into the comprehensive plan, or certain organizations will pick them up and they ride along. So it's something that is ongoing. As with the Main Street communities, it's a process of causing change, and as you develop, it's the same thing with the Heart and Soul. You're going to get that excitement, and then it's going to grow, and then you're going to prioritize which direction you want to go in. You may finish that priority and then move on to another priority. So it's an ongoing process through the town. There's really 4 phases through the process. This phase will take you anywhere from 18 to 24 months. And we're right before laying the groundwork, but you're about ready to jump into the groundwork phase. So the groundwork phase is the part about getting organized. It's developing your team, how you're going to communicate, it's putting your budget together, it's getting that, what is the message that you're telling to the community to get involved with the community heart and soul. This is probably the shortest period. That takes roughly anywhere from 2 to 4 months, depending on how fast the group solidifies to do that. This is where you'll typically define or identify somebody as being your heart and soul kind of lead, who is the person that I will be talking to a lot in the coordination of this actual event. So one of the big steps in this process, which is kind of fun, and we'll do an exercise for this today, is the community network analysis. Does anybody here like data? Like the data? Okay, we got a couple of hands, that's good. Because the data that comes out is a huge Excel sheet, which we'll go into, but it's how we develop the connectors to make sure that we are talking to everybody. So one of the things I wanted to do tonight, there are several different groups, and just driving around in Bowling Green, I noticed that we had a large faith community. There's many churches and stuff here. So one of the examples of collecting, making sure you get everybody, is identify some of the groups that are here. You've got faith, you've got young, whether they're in school or whether there's a young organization. We've got service organizations here, nonprofit, government, school. So, for example, where Mark is standing, I took Habitat for Humanity, Jason Tickle is one of the main contacts, and wrote his name up as a service organization, and Mark's initials is sort of like that. So I think what we'll do is at the end of this, if everybody will grab, we have people that have magic markers, and you want to go up and write who do you know that's part of these different organizations and who we may be missing. We may be missing AP Health, is there agriculture around that you may want to go in? Those are just some examples of getting people started on how you're connected to something in your community. Most of you said it verbally today, but if we can get it someone writing, when we do our training for the phase 1, our Excel sheet for community network analysis is starting. And we do have, now we have a flyer over here that goes into the network analysis. So this is all the connectors. We're trying to make sure you're connecting with everybody. Phase 2 is probably the hardest or the longest part. It's your story gathering stage. And there's really 2 ways of gathering stories. You have already actively been doing what they call thin stories. And a lot of the concert series, people are writing on what they love. We've used these in Fredericksburg, posters. They were in the restaurants and different places, and people were writing on what they love. Somebody takes this information and then puts it in a data form. There's also fixed stories. And fixed stories are your one-on-one. They're 2-way conversations. This and the sign-ups that you're doing at the concert series are one-way interactions. So the stories are helping you gather what matters to the people that live here. What do they want to see here? What would it take for them to stay here? That's a question for some of our young families that are here. It's the longest part, but it's also the funnest part, because this is where you find things you may not even know that exist. In one community, they found out that they had a church that had been abandoned. It was a black church, and then when this Heart and Soul found out about the church, that church now is on the National Historical Preservation, because there was a huge history for that church that the owners never told, because they were afraid the town was going to make them tear the church down. So I don't know what stories are here, but you never know until you kind of start talking to people. So it's a fun way to do that. So I went backwards, so I'm sorry about that. So this is another example of just people writing up stories of what they like. And then out of the stories, you will start finding themes. They'll keep reoccurring. And then out of those themes, typically communities will develop their heart and soul statements. This is where you start to develop. These examples are from Golden, Colorado. So yours will be different. They may be similar on certain things. And then these are the statements that will help you define which direction and what priorities you want to go into. So this process takes about 4 to 6 weeks. So in the make decisions is when you're trying to determine what you want to do with the statements that you have. So you're looking at all the different action items and all the different light bulbs that people are giving, all those different things, and then you're prioritizing them to your heart and soul statements. And then you're looking at them from a feasibility point. Is there, can we do this? If somebody decides that they want to do pickleball here, for example, is there enough desire for it? Is there a grant for it? So you start looking at, priorities of what's possible, what should we do first, and what should we do second. This particular community made the decision that they want to develop biking and walking trails. So that was their number 1 priority, that came out of their heart and soul statements that they did. And the last one is really taking action. You're finding out who is going to make these priorities come to life. Sometimes it can be a church group, sometimes it can be a service organization. It doesn't necessarily have to be done by the group that is doing the heart and soul research, but usually, how it works is if you get all the different partners all coming together and picking a priority that's of interest to them. And some communities will develop it where they use it as an economic development tool, where it does become part of the town comprehensive plan. So there's many ways it can go depending on what comes out of the conversation with the community here. And Cortez, Colorado, what they did is they developed a book of their actual priorities and which direction they're going to go in. It can take many different forms. Instead, it can go into the comprehensive plan. You can do it as flyer. It's whatever, however we decide as a community to identify your action items and what you want to do.
And,
Yes.
you mentioned that 2 to 3 months on the laying the groundwork. Typically, how long do each of the
For
others-
phase 2 is your longest, that's anywhere from 6 to 8 months. And the other 2 phases, the phase 3 is anywhere, I think, from 3 to 6 months, depending on how fast you go through your priorities. One community had over 68 priorities, and they had to figure it out. So it depends on how many things come out of your process and where you want to go with it. And in phase 4, you usually can take anywhere from 3 and ongoing, as long as you want to keep. Typically what happens is your team will slightly change in phase 4, well, it becomes more of a stewardship team. It's making sure things are still going in the right direction. There is overlap on that. Your first team that starts this is really the working team to get this going. Biddeford, Maine is one of the examples I wanted to give to you. It was known as Trash Town. In the middle of the town, they employed 80 people, and it was known for, that's where the incinerator was. It didn't smell well, didn't look good. After so many years, the community came together and said, we want to move it, which means that they were going to be losing 80 jobs to do that. So they did make the decision to relocate the community, relocate the incinerator. So I'm going to read you some of the stuff about them. So before they brought in Heart and Soul, they had a very high vacancy rate downtown. They had 1.6 million square feet of vacancy downtown, which is really people were leaving. Population was, everybody was leaving Biddeford, nobody was staying down there. So when they brought in Heart and Soul, they had a 60% increase in commercial space being rented out in the first couple of years. They received over $50 million in grants and funding. And one of the benefits from becoming a Heart and Soul community is typically there are grants and opportunities out there for you to take that you would not have otherwise. And they also had 90 million of new projects that came in their community over the, I think it was a 7-year process. So they saw a huge turnover. And then here's a quote from their economic development. So what they saw was a huge, when the community said we've had enough, we want the incinerator to move out. People were kind of scared about that happening, but it actually turned that town around to where it's leading the way. Gardner, Maine is another community. This town is about 5,000 people, and it had lost a lot of the manufacturing jobs because manufacturing was moving out of the north. Their population was decreasing, and their political environment for their town councils was very combative. People were not happy about what was happening in Gardner. So before Heart and Soul, they had a 14% decline in population from 2000 to 2010, and they owed over $1 million for an investment for a business park that the city has debt. When they brought in Heart and Soul, they received $1.9 million in community block development grants. 55 new jobs were created, and they also brought in 5 new businesses came in. They actually rewrote their town codes. What they were finding out was that they had kind of stagnated themselves. The residents were saying, we want the ability to have roosters and goats and chickens and bees, so they made a zoning change. They also had one church that was empty, and they could not do anything with that, and they got the zoning changed, and they actually turned that into a distillery. So what came out of the Heart and Soul? So what they saw come out of that was that they realized that they had things in place that was actually hindering their growth. So that community came together through the storytelling and people concerned about the community. They realized that they need to go to the town and have some of the ordinance change. They also created a major sidewalk master plan to bring people into Gardner, Maine. So they took some very strong steps, and they did have their entire priorities into their town council plan. So they really made some very strong decisions. I wanted to talk about, there's one little community that is under 1,600 people. It is Macomb, Ohio, and Macomb, Ohio was dealing a loss and pride in their community. They brought in Heart and Soul, and within their first year, they had 8 new businesses come in. So they have communities all sizes. They've done some in Vermont with 900 people. There's Mount Belanger, Ohio with 487. So it does work. It's the same process. May not take you as long, sure, many people talk to, but it's the same process that you go through. So the steps, I think, are good. And here's their quote from their former mayor. What people will see out of the Heart and Soul program are typically these things. You'll see a greater sense of place. People really take pride and want to see it grow and develop. You'll get a new set of leaders. People will identify that you may not have heard from before that have an interest in the community of some sort. There definitely is more civic participation that you'll see. And it does build trust because you are trying to reach out to everybody and you're listening. So it's a combination of a couple of things that are happening. Just as a quick recap, the Heart and Soul principles and phases involve everyone, focus on what matters, play the long game, and then you have the 4 phases that you go through. If you didn't grab there's a folder, and in the folder it does have several examples of different successes for several communities that I didn't talk about today. And then they have about the Heart and Soul, and then there's stuff about the 8 ways. So this kind of is a background for you, along with we have a more detailed focus with Community Heart and Soul program. So one of the, I guess, the things that you have to decide is, are you ready to go forward with this process? And to do this process is a matter of, we put the team together and we start doing some training sessions, and they go out to the public and get started. So that I don't know if anybody has any questions that they would like to have. We have, I don't know if they introduced ourselves, but Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Caitlin Davison with the Orton Family Foundation, coming down from Maine, so great to be here.
And
Hi
Eric.
everybody, I'm Eric Ortiz and I'm with the Orton Family Foundation and I'm in from Colorado.
And then we have Danella's hiding in the back. She's also a coach from Ohio. Yeah, Ohio. So you have 4 of us here. I'll open up to questions. I know we're trying to get everybody out of here within an hour, so I may have flown through some of this, and I apologize. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask us?
What are next steps? What are some practical things that this crowd, this group, we will be involved with to begin with? I mean, how does this thing step forward?
Well, I think one of our steps is Orton Foundation's in town in the 3rd week of October, I think, is that we do a meeting to schedule the team. The teams are usually anywhere from 7 to 9 people. You're looking for people that have an interest in data collection, who's going to communicate, who has connections to different areas of the community. So starting that conversation and in-line training for that. There is a community assessment sheet that people can take on their way out to feel if they're comfortable with where Bowling Green is to move forward with this process. So we're ready to jump into the water and get it going if people will identify themselves and wanting to be on the team.
Anybody that's interested, message me, you know how to get over me. I'm on Facebook, you can PM me. I'm on We the Townspeople, I have that group. So just, get up to me and say, hey, I'd like to maybe get involved with this.
And then I forgot this up here, but in the front here, we have an interest form, so you can fill this out tonight, and Mark or myself can reach out to you to get you involved in some form or fashion with the actual team putting it together for us. Anybody else have any questions?
Once the 18-month study is done, of course, we'll all know a lot more once we get started. And it's hard to steer a ship that isn't moving. So And after that, I guess, it just depends on kind of the spirit of the whole thing, and how people get involved, and how we can get people excited about what can happen.
It also will depend on what your priorities are. You may be able to take the first two to do, and then the next time you look at the others and want to do two more. I mean, it depends on which ones you want to, keep going, as which ones you want to do. I don't know if you guys want to add to that?
Yeah, if you're thinking about the phase 3, is that the question about action items and how those happen? We have communities that distill it down to like a few really big strategies. Like the example in Gardner, they were wanting to do local food as a strategy. So that filtered into the comprehensive plan, into their economic development. In other communities, they have, I saw it in Bucksport, Maine, which is near me, they had 82 actions. And we say, you prioritize those. And they said, well, we know we're supposed to prioritize them, but they are all really good ideas, so we're going to figure out how to get all 82 ideas to happen. And they are. You can follow them on Facebook, and they've numbered every action item, and they'll be like, action number 77, something happened with that, and they're chugging away at it, and they're doing the work of always communicating to the community about that progress and those successes.
Now, you talk about grants. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I just had a
No,
question, if you
no, go ahead.
My question was, what do you usually do to get all the stories and ideas? Because it's door to door, are we talking like events like this and roundtables?
It's a combination of them all. Typically what will happen is you end up putting a team together who's kind of head of the story gathering, and then there'll be subcommittees, and it's a matter of maybe one-on-one, you find out from the community network analysis, somebody knows this person and you put them in touch, or somebody else introduce you and you do that. It's all those ways, gathering stories. Probably the one that takes the longest, of course, is the one-on-one conversations of people. But those are just as important, which I call the thick data, and probably a little bit more important than the thin data. But it does, there's no right or wrong way, so it's every different way. Part of that team will decide, I know you have Harvest Festival is coming up. That's a great way to also to collect stories. It can be very easily, again, a coaster or just a piece of paper, or if you know certain people that are going to be there, you may want to schedule, some time to sit down with them. We do suggest that you can record. Some communities do, some not. It's up to the team to decide how they want to collect the story. But somebody's got to be collecting the data so that you're developing what are the themes. Because there'll get a point where you're going to say we are hearing all the themes. And that's when you're probably ready to move to phase 3. There are a series of milestones, and that sheet is up here to make sure that we're moving through each of those properly. We're collecting all the data.
So who's gathering all the information on the forms that you provided us with tonight, Mark?
I think you're looking at them. So the forms for tonight, I'll take them and type them up, and then I'll give them to Mark. And that's part of what the team is going to do.
But if we don't need that information tonight, if we don't have the time to sit down and fill out all the forms tonight.
Then I think you could probably bring them to town hall and drop it off. Would that be acceptable? Sure. So the town is very much for this too. So I think they're willing to create information back and forth.
One of the ways that we was able to get Community Heart and Soul here was the town passed a resolution for this and showing their support for this group. So we do have the backing of the town. And I don't know if Ann mentioned or not, but each phase of this costs money. The Orton Foundation is funding each phase. And we're talking $5,000 a phase, that's $20,000. So it's a $20,000 grant that we've already received right off the bat to get this done. Okay, and it's very gracious that they do this. Because communities like us, we can't afford a lot. So it's very nice. But one of my questions was you talk about grants. Now I assume you're talking about grants from USDA, Department of Development, housing, and from different organizations, correct?
Correct.
And then they go
And
through the
they're
town applies, I mean, the government applies for them, or do we do private entity as well, or what?
Most grants typically are nonprofit driven or town driven to apply for them. So Main Street can apply for them, the town can apply for them. There is a planning grant out there right now that you can use if you decide that you want to pay whoever your lead person here is for this project, that you can do that. Some communities do as a volunteer, some people have split it among 2 people. I mean, it really is whatever works for the community. But one of the first things that that team will do when they sit down is try to figure out, what type of budget they want to look at, how are they gathering, data and things like that. So, but as I said, there are many opportunities. Mark reached out to me the other day about a love reimbursement sign. I mean, there's small things that you can do to spark some of the pride and get some of the things, people starting to talk about what's happening in Bowling Green. That's a $1,500 reimbursement. And there's other grants that are out there as you develop and move forward that you can apply for throughout the, along with the Main Street program has some phenomenal grants, up to $25,000 that you can take for feasibility studies and or marketing promotions.
And I'll just add from the Orton Family Foundation, we're really excited about what you're all doing. We're excited to be in Virginia. Our resources are going to provide AN as a resource, so that $5,000 per phase that Mark mentioned is to make sure that you have AN to come and do trainings, to talk to, like she mentioned, with a local project coordinator and volunteers. So there are other resources that you might need to do the story gathering or to host events, things like that.
And they have, what I have been so impressed with Orton is their resources. I mean, there is in-depth training on, like, for story gathering. There's training on how do we, what's our elevators feature, how do you go talk to somebody in the grocery line. I mean, the resources that they have available to us and to Bowling Green is huge. And it's that they have a history and we know that it works. So the model is there. We're going to use that model to guide us to hopefully come to a situation where a year from now you're all really excited about which direction you're going in, and you've got another business, or maybe 3 or 4 businesses are coming in downtown. Yes.
I just want to say that I'm just so encouraged by the number of folks that are here tonight. And we've been plugging away trying to get some buzz about this Community Heart and Soul going, and it's paid off. And so it's just wonderful to see such a presence here in town tonight. And what I'm going to challenge you all tonight to do is a call to action to take it a step further. So before you walk out of that door tonight, I'd really appreciate it if you would take a look at the interest form, take one with you, fill it out, bring it back to either myself here at Town Hall or to Mark. We want to find out who the champions are in this town and who the people are that are willing to roll up their sleeves and really do some work. So I can't tell you enough how encouraged I am that we will find those folks just based on the participation that we're seeing here tonight. And I'm finally just thank you all so much.
And you can volunteer maybe where you can only do one thing. Like I can sit at this event and I can collect this information. I mean, you're not having to commit to hours and hours. Tell us what you're interested in, what you're willing to do, and we will get you involved with Heart and Soul. And you may be in at different times. You may step in now, and then something step away, and then come back. So it's an ongoing process, and it is a community-driven process to go through. So you can step in as big or as little as you want for this team. And I do challenge you before you leave, if you know people or names, not that you identify, doesn't mean we're connecting with everybody tonight or calling them or anything, but if you can start identifying who are we that's maybe not here tonight that we need to reach out to. Grab a marker. I think Eric has one, and Caitlin has one, and Janelle has one, and just start writing up on the board so we can start filling in the data sheet. The training process at the phase 1, that will probably be a good 3-hour commitment to go through into
how to collect stories, what you're, how to talk in the grocery line or in the elevator, and then also do work with the community network analysis. So it's really doing that, and that's your data collection is ongoing through this whole 18 months because people may go in and out and things like that.
Oh, Mark, I'll sign up for that. It's a tad bit selfish. I mean, I'm supporting my son's business. He's autistic. And graduated from Jamaica with a degree in art, magna cum laude. And Ruth and Tammy and Mark, we I guess kind of stumbled into this situation where an opportunity to rent this space where he could put a studio and gallery. And we were terribly excited about that. But we were at the Mexican restaurant about a week ago, I guess. And these two young girls, and I know they weren't from Bowling Green, I did not recognize at all. And they're walking down the street, they're looking in the windows. They walk down and looking in the window. Well, unfortunately, most of the windows are empty. And I said to Joey, I said, if we had your studio and you had something here and something here, they wouldn't just look in the window, they would probably walk in. And maybe they wouldn't buy anything, but they would take away, hey, I was in this little town in Virginia, but it's a neat little place. We've got these attractive businesses, and the town seems vibrant. And maybe they'll come back. Maybe somebody else will come into town. So I'm committed to help my son out, but I'm also committed to help the town out.
Well, I was going to say,
And
that's
I
not...
have one more thing.
Okay,
I feel bad about this. I forgot to introduce my wife.
Well, you're getting out of the doghouse now.
This is my wife, Carrie.
Hi, Carrie.
Carrie works for Marine Corps Intelligence at Quantico, and she's the heart and soul behind our son's business, actually. So I'll do that, and she can continue to work on my son's business.
Well, and I will say, that's not being selfish. That's somebody who cares about the town. And that person is what will make this town be completely different in the next 2 years.
Well, we hope so.
You'll see it.
I'd like to say something, Mr. Brown, you said about the stores being empty. That was something when my husband and I came to town in 1972 and went in business. Every time a building became empty, he says, we can't have this. We have to put something in it. That's how we had so many businesses. It was the fact that we couldn't let one stay empty. And I'm sorry, but I'm too old now to keep it up.
You
So
can help
I had to get out.
Hey, Ruth, you can help me.
I know, okay, I help you.
I know we're running a little late. Does anybody else have any questions? I am around, and the ordinance people are around. Please pick up some paperwork in a folder if you had not. I would thank you from the bottom of my heart to be here. There's been a huge turnout and a great variety of people that are here. Yes, ma'am.
What were we supposed to do on this paper?
So on these pieces of paper, if you know of an organization or a group, write them up. There are some blank sheets in case we didn't identify. For example, is there like a senior living here or some senior clubs or things that you know that exist? If you know the name of them, write them down. And if you know of a contact person, if you don't mind leaving your initials as the person who gave that information, that would be great. What we want to do is start just start the beginning of the community network analysis. So most of you here identify in some form or fashion with the community. So I just started a couple of names to get things going, but we can do other names. So there's some blank sheets of paper, just right on.
So like small shop owners and stuff, we want that on there too?
Yes, we can actually, Danielle, if you put shop owners on that one, you guys can put your name and
So if you have a place but you don't know the contact, you can put that down?
yes, and we'll figure it out. I mean, that's what will come out of this as this group develops, the community network, is we'll start connecting
people that we may or may not know, or groups that we're not sure right here or something. So it's really kind of exploratory, and this is just the kind of, when they first meet in October, that we're starting having some data to put in this sheet that he started. Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not gonna let y'all get out of here. I'm gonna stand up here with a list, and if you wanna volunteer, if you wanna just man the booth for a couple of hours, we got Harvest Festival coming up. If you're just interested, you know, and you wanna get on the team, and you don't have a lot of time, or you do have a lot of time, I'm gonna take your name and number, and we're gonna put it together and make it work, and we're gonna put Bowling Green on the map.
What's the date for the Harvest Fest?
October 19th.
October
19th.
October 19th.
The third Saturday in October.
Anybody else?
One quick,
Yes.
will we learn how to analyze the information that we have? Is that what the training?
That's all, yes.
Okay.
It's my favorite training.
I'm sorry, y'all heard
She's a
that?
data nerd.
Yep,
so-
my favorite training,
Oh,
organizing
okay.
your data, spreadsheet people.